I've been working mostly remotely since 2017, and the very first job that I had paid me only $25. Fast forward a few years, and I was able to land a client that was paying me $2,000 per month. And one of the things that has been the most challenging in these almost 8 years now has been landing clients. So what I want to do in this video is share with you 6 different ways that I was able to land clients over the years. My goal is to kind of just inspire you to know what's possible when it comes to working remotely, and pick and choose which one you want to experiment with and see what works for you. So obviously, as a disclaimer, I am not guaranteeing any success or results. I am not an HR recruiter or anything of the sort. I am not a financial advisor. Please take this as education and inspiration and try things as you feel so led, okay? So without further ado, let's get into the video. Hi, my name is Jojo, which stands for Josephine. If you care, if you don't, you're still welcome here. So, a little bit of backstory before I start telling you about the 6 different ways that I've been able to land clients on the internet. So, before I started working on the internet, I was working as a digital marketing specialist at a small little digital marketing agency here in Nairobi, and it was an in-person job. Now, while I enjoyed the job itself, the commute, you people, was just killing me. I could not deal. At the time, my firstborn was 3 years old. I would leave the house at 6:30 in the morning when he was still asleep, and I'll be back at 7:30 p.m. And by the time I'm coming home, he's almost ready for bedtime, and I was just too exhausted to even play with him. And I was like, guys, if there is a title in my life that I hold very high above almost any other, is mother. Listen, I am the kind of person I would rather be broke than be taken away from my children. I would rather be broke. So I quit the job because I was like, listen, I'm missing out on my child. So after 4 months, I quit. It was a bit drastic, and I don't recommend doing that. Guys, please be wiser than me. I was young and I was reckless. However, if you are young and you don't have dependency, this is the best time to experiment with things like that. But please don't take, I'm not advising you to do that. So now after I quit, remember I had no plan. I was like, okay, now what do I do? I had this friend who was working online, and I was like I was just watching her advancing in life. She moved apartments, she bought a washing machine, she's moving up in the world. I was like, girl, what you doing? She's like, yeah, I'm working on Upwork. I was like, okay, great, let me go ahead and get started. And a funny story, right? I had actually applied for Upwork in 2015. And I even applied for a job. I applied for a job and closed my laptop and promptly forgot that I had created an account, that I had applied for a job. So now fast forward to 2017, when I'm deciding, let me give this online work a try, I go and I'm like, oh wait, I already have an Upwork account. Oh wait, the job I applied for actually invited me to do the job, but I just didn't see it. And so this person moved on. You guys. A running theme you're going to see in this video is consistency is key. So Upwork is the very first way that I was able to land a job. So I spruced up my account. I thought to myself, okay, what can I do on these Upwork streets? I decided to offer video editing services, because to me it felt like video editing is something that comes fairly naturally to me. I'm okay at it. I'm not Hollywood level video editor, but I'm pretty good. So I was like, okay, let me offer my services as a video editor. So I did. So I started applying for job after job after job after job. This was, by the way, the time before Upwork introduced connects. And what connects is basically tokens. That's how you use connects to apply for jobs. And nowadays Upwork gives you, I think, 10 free connects a month, and if you want more than that, you kind of have to pay in order to apply for jobs. But yeah, back when I was getting started, connects weren't a thing, so you could apply for as many jobs as you wanted. You could even apply for 100 jobs in a day if you wanted and if you could. So anyways, applied, wasn't getting anything, but I was like, I have to make this thing work because, again, I need money. Finally, I applied for a job. It was, I think, $25. You guys, I had to put my ego way down. I was like, okay, I am a trained video editor. I went to school for video editing, but I will put my ego down and apply for this $25 job. And I got the job. I was so excited, you guys. I was so excited. I think I might have taken a screenshot. If I can find said screenshot, I will insert it here. Okay, so a quick correction. I'm currently editing the video and I'm realizing I had my timeline completely wrong. So I quit in 2017, but I didn't actually go straight into Upwork until what I'm looking at here on the screen, May of 2018. And that's when I got my very first project. And clearly it wasn't $25. It turns out it was $75, which is really confusing. Or maybe there was a combination of things. Let me check. Okay, yeah, so it was it was 4 different videos. Each of them was $25, right? And yeah, it wound up being a total of $150 that I got from this very first client. So yeah, sorry about that. The timeline's completely wrong. I completely forgot that after I quit, I actually started freelancing in person first before I decided to get onto Upwork. Anyways, I was so excited. I applied for this job and I got it. And this lady sent me her video editing work. It was really, really simple work, to be honest. So I did the first one. She liked it very much. She left me a nice review, which I'll put over here. And then I did maybe 3 or 4 more videos for her. And it was, I was off to the races after that. And the thing about platforms like Upwork, or really any of these methods, your first one, landing your very first opportunity is always the hardest one. But once you land your first one, things start to become easier after that, especially if you're consistent. Again, I'm going to talk about this consistency thing when I come to method number 2, because that's where a lack of consistency really bit me in the behind. But yeah, so after this first client, I was able to land a few more clients. One to pay me $100, another one pay me $175. Then I think Upwork told me that I was in the running to become top rated, but in order to do that, I needed to apply for an hourly position. So I did. Started applying for hourly positions, got my first one. It was a very chaotic start because I think the day after I landed this job, I was supposed to travel to Uganda to see relatives. I was pregnant with my daughter, and the people, the askaris at the airport were, this is completely irrelevant, by the way. I'm just telling a story because these are some of the ups and downs I've gone through. The askaris at the airport were really harassing me, and so I dropped my very brand new laptop and the screen broke right before I was about to start this job. You guys, but me, I had to make it work. As I'm getting to top rated, because at the time top rated meant you could actually get more jobs. I don't know what it's like now. So anyways, I started this hourly project, and yeah, again, it wasn't difficult. I just needed to cut off the beginning, the end, add some logos, blah blah blah, move on in life. It was very easy, and because it was very easy, I could do it for an hour or 2 every day. And yeah, worked on that job, got to my top rated status I wanted to, and things got a bit easier after that. Then at some point, at some point Upwork put this job on my feed for writing about cinematography, and so I applied because, again, remember, I went to school and I studied filmmaking. I was like, okay, this would be fairly easy for me to do because I learned all of this stuff. It's somewhere in my head, so it was an easy job for me to do. And at the time that this was happening, it was 2019, and I was also kind of tired of the whole video editing thing, and I was also pregnant with my second born, so I also didn't have a lot of energy to be editing stuff all the time. Anyways, so I worked with this client. It was fantastic. He would pay me $100 every week, and I'd give him a blog article. And because, again, it was content I knew, I would spend 2 hours working on an article for him from start to finish. So yeah, that I stayed with the client for, I think, a bit over a year. We really worked well together. But the thing about Upwork is, at some point, I just started to get frustrated. It started to feel really crowded. I started to feel like I was bidding on jobs, and either they were really low quality jobs or low paying jobs, or I was getting drowned in a sea of people who could offer the same service for a low amount of money. So I kind of started to get jaded with the platform. So around 2019, I started looking for my second method of landing clients. But before I tell you about that, a quick disclaimer. My experience on Upwork and the fact that I personally don't like it does not mean it doesn't work. And to prove it to you, I've actually made contact with someone I met recently who joined Upwork just last year and is doing really, really well. And I'm planning to interview him. So please do me a favor, in the comments below, leave any questions you might have specifically about Upwork so that I can ask him during the interview, because just because Upwork does not work for me doesn't mean that it doesn't work for everybody. And I really want to try and give you guys as many options as possible, right? So on to my second way that I've been able to land clients. Engaging in Facebook groups, or really what I should say is engaging in online communities. For me in particular, this worked courtesy of being in a Facebook group, but it genuinely applies to other kinds of online communities. So how do you land clients through online communities, through Facebook groups? It's by engaging. And this is the thing I was least consistent with, and therefore this method gave me the lowest possible results. For all of the engaging that I did, I only ever landed one client. So let me tell you how it worked, and let me tell you what I didn't do that I recommend you do if you decide you're going to try out landing clients in Facebook groups or any other kinds of online communities. During the pandemic, one of the groups I was in, someone I think was a VA or something, and she had a small video editing job for her client. And so she was like, hey, I'm looking for a video editor for a small project. Anyone here who can help me out? She was subcontracting. threw my hat in the ring. She liked my portfolio, and so we worked together on the project. I think it took me like 4 hours, sent her an invoice, she paid me. And that was the end of that story. We moved on with life. We never spoke again after that. But here are the principles that I learned that if I could go back and do it all over again, this is what I would do, and this is what I recommend for you to do. Number 1, be consistent. What does consistency mean? You need to give yourself a minimum of 30 minutes every day. If you can hack 90 minutes or even 2 hours in a day, where your only focus is engaging in Facebook groups, go ahead and do it. Why? The thing about being in Facebook groups is you need to be consistent such that people start to remember your name. People start to recognize you as the person who offers a specific level of high quality information and value in the group. And so whenever someone is looking for work that is related to what you do and what you're constantly talking about, they will automatically think of you. Think of it this way. When you're here on YouTube, some of you found me on YouTube. By the way, let me just say thank you so much for almost 4,000 of you that have subscribed to my channel. My mind is blown. So yeah, some of you have found me on YouTube courtesy of one of my previous videos. But if I don't continue giving you videos, after like maybe, 3 months, if that, you're going to forget about me. And so I'm not going to be the first person you remember when you're looking for certain types of information. So it works exactly the same way in Facebook groups. Only that you don't have to like have a whole YouTube channel for this to work. You just simply have to show up and give value. What does it mean to actually give value? It means keep the conversation going, okay? If someone posts something in some of these Facebook groups or whichever online community you're in, leave a thoughtful comment. And thoughtful comment doesn't mean, oh, that's so nice. Okay, and that's not valuable. Like everybody's saying, oh, that's so interesting. Oh, that's so nice. Oh, that's good. No, that's not helping. Value can simply be as simple as, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I have a question about specific question, and just keep the conversation going, right? And quick hack that I learned from one of my coaches. One of the ways that you can keep the conversation going is by always ending any comment that you have with a question. What's another way you can offer value? Did you find something interesting in your research about the kind of work that you're doing, or like a piece of advice that you keep giving other people? Go ahead and write it as a valuable post. Remember not to say, oh, and by the way, I actually offer this as a service. So if you're interested, send me a DM. Please don't end with that. There are people who will tell you to do that, but that doesn't help. That right there falls in the category of self-promotion. And the thing about many of these groups is they have very strict rules against self-promotion. When people decide to create online communities, they're trying to create a space where people feel safe, where people feel seen, where people feel heard, where people feel like they're getting helped. So if you instead come in and you're like, oh, I have a discount. Oh, I have this. Oh, buy my stuff. Blah, 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 blah. You're doing the exact opposite of what the people who started the group for. And so they will kick you out. Okay? So value is not self-promoting. Doesn't matter that you have the best discount in the world. If that is the only thing you ever talk about, you're giving exactly the same vibes as here in Nairobi. Our public transportation system is called matatus. And one of the things the conductors, aka makangas, one of the things they have a habit of doing is they see you headed towards the matatu. See, you're a grown adult who has decided I am going to a particular place, right? And I have decided this is the matatu I'm going to. These people will see you and then come and grab your hand and then try and drag you into the matatu, and then they start jostling over you, and then like everybody's trying to get you into the matatu, and it's just it's a really horrible experience. When you self-promote in these online communities, you're kind of giving off the exact same vibes. It does not make anybody comfortable. And so to protect the peace, to protect the community, you will be kicked out. So please, do not self-promote, okay? So to wrap up this whole Facebook group thing, if you show up consistently, and you're showing up consistently by giving value, people start to recognize your name. People start to associate you with someone who is helpful, someone who is kind, someone who probably is fun to work with, and things like that. And so when someone does ask for help, either people who recognize you will refer you, or because you've been engaged in the community, you throw your ring in the hat, and because they've been seeing you, they're more likely to pick you out of everybody else, okay? Obviously, it goes without saying that you need to have a strong portfolio behind the scenes. For me, the one time that I landed a client, even though I wasn't consistent, because I had a strong portfolio, I was still able to stand out, okay? I would be curious to know if any of you have tried this out before, or if you'd like me to find someone who I can interview about this method specifically. Let me know in the comments below. So one final thing about engaging in Facebook groups. it's very tempting to join like 100 different groups. But the thing is, you cannot consistently engage in 100 different groups. So this is what I recommend instead. 1, determine the kind of work you want to offer. 2, determine the kind of client you actually want to work for. And then find as many communities as you can where either people who are offering the same service as you are, or your ideal client is likely to be. Join as many of them as you can in the beginning. Do this for like maybe 2 weeks max. Engage in as many of them as you can for like those 2 weeks. What you're doing in this 2-week period is you're testing to see, is my client actually here, or is a potential collaborator actually here? And also, do I enjoy being in this community? Is this an engaged community? Are people talking about things multiple times a day? Because there's nothing worse than joining a community that is dead, where there's like one post in 3 days. That's not a community where you're going to find clients, okay? You need a community that's vibrant, one that you actually enjoy being in. And I'm going to stress the enjoyment part, because another reason this didn't work for me specifically is I am that very random person who worked as a social media manager who does not like being on social media. It's fun, right? For this to work for you, you really need to be in communities in these social media spaces that you actually enjoy and that you will willingly show up whether or not you get money out of it, okay? Now, when it comes to Facebook groups, remember I said I genuinely don't enjoy spending time on social media. However, at some point I did decide to start working with an online coach, and she did have a free, not a free community. She had a closed community for anyone who she was coaching. And for those of you who don't actually like being on social media, join a community where you're actually paying money. Trust me, when you're paying money, you will show up. Trust me, I have been there, done that. Anyways, so I joined this lady's community. She was a business coach, and I was engaging on a regular basis, starting to get to know people. This is actually where I was able to practice everything I just talked about in the previous method. In the process of that, I landed on my next way that I landed a client, almost by mistake, which is offering work for free. So here's the story. Because I was part of this lady's coaching community, there's a time she was about to launch another cohort of her coaching program, and she was like, hey, I'm looking for people to volunteer as like my sales reps for the launch. And so I volunteered, because she was like, yeah, you get to see behind the scenes of what it's like to actually have a successful launch, because she was offering high ticket coaching. Don't ask me how I found the money to join the community. I begged and I borrowed. That's neither here nor there. So I volunteered, and I was selected to be one of the sales reps. And I was the one person who didn't actually make a single sale, which led me to work with a sales coach. And this is going to come into play in the next method. But I learned a lot. And I remember, as part of her showing us the behind the scenes of her running the launch, she kind of did like a post-mortem of what worked and what didn't work. And one of the things she said that was very interesting was she didn't like her Facebook ads. Now, at the time, I was trying to position myself as a Facebook ads strategist and all that. Because remember, I don't like social media. So organic social media, like, I can do it. I can do a good job, but I don't enjoy it. However, when it comes to Facebook ads, there's a lot of thinking and strategy, and I like that kind of thing. So I was trying to position myself as a Facebook ad strategist. So I remember she said she didn't like the results of her Facebook ads. So like, without even thinking, I just kind of asked her like, hey, I'm genuinely curious to see like what went wrong with your ads. Are you okay if I do a free audit for you? Obviously, she was like, yeah, 100%. You're not charging me for this. It doesn't hurt anything. And I would love to figure out why this didn't work. So I was like, okay, great. I'll do this free audit for you. Now, remember when I said I was also working with another coach? He was a high ticket sales coach. I went and I told this other coach, like, oh, I'm doing this free audit for this lady. And one of the first things he told me was like, hey, I need you to have your packages ready just in case she decides that she wants to work with you. Okay. So I did. I went and created packages, and this sales coach was one of those sales coach for like, I need you to be selling things at a very high price, high ticket. So I did the audit for her, found out everything that was wrong, created a report for her, but also I created some packages. So when I was presenting the report to her, explained to her everything that went wrong, and one of the recommendations was, hey, fire that guy, hire someone else. I didn't say hire me. I said hire someone else. And because I was offering her free value, automatically she was like, well, are you available? Because this is what happens when you offer free work. If you offer free work, especially something like an audit, the thing about an audit is it helps you to show a client, hey, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 problems. When you can clearly and very specifically articulate the problems that a client has, they will automatically assume you also have the solution. And this is exactly what happened in this scenario. Remember, I fell into this by accident, but it was one of the best things that could have happened to me because I've been doing free work ever since. Because I was also working with this other coach and had my packages ready, and from previous experience, I had some of my systems in place. I was using a platform called Dapsado to like do invoices and contracts. I already had all of those things set up in the background because I'd been practicing some of these things for the previous year prior to this point. So when it came to like me saying like you need to hire someone else, she's like, are you available? I was like, as a matter of fact, I am. She's like, okay, well, what do you have to offer? I was like, let me show you. I have my packages ready. So I walk her through package A, I can do 1, 2, 3 things and it's this much. And package B, I can do 1, 2, 3 things more and it costs this much more. And she's like, well, obviously I want everything. And I was like, okay, great. So when I ready to get started, she's like, right now. I was like, great, I'll send you the invoice just now. So right there in the chat, in the call, I sent her a link to the contract. She signed it and everything. And by the end of the day, like I had a client. And I had priced my high package at $2,500. You guys, I got off that call after this woman saying yes, and I lay myself on the carpet. I was just like, what just happened? I was so, like, I could not believe I had just seamlessly closed a client for $2,500. At the time, I could not fathom making that kind of money, right? So anyways, we all start from somewhere. So some of you might be in the comments listening like, what? Only $2,500? Like, guys, listen. When you've been doing $200 projects and then someone pays you $2,500, it's literally a 10x jump. So don't judge me. But that was also the day that something unlocked for me. I was like, guys, there are people in these streets who will pay you money as long as you're actually solving a real problem. And one of the ways you can show that you can solve a problem is do free work. Yes, especially if you're a professional in whatever you do, doing free work can feel like it's demeaning you, it's demeaning your value and all that jazz. But the reality is, it's opening up doors. Like when you show up and when you show up in the energy of, I'm willing to do something for you for free because I'm that confident in what I do, imagine it doesn't demean your, okay, let me put it this way. For the right client, it does not demean your value. Obviously there are going to be some people out in the streets who are going to want to intentionally like make you work for free. But the thing with those ones is they will usually come out the gate immediately either asking for discounts or saying your prices are too high or asking you to do a free sample, blah, blah, blah. Those people, usually you can just run. But if you've gone and scoped someone and you can tell, okay, this is someone who's level-headed, they have a business that's running well and everything, they don't actually need discounted price, they need a solution to their problem, and you come and offer them a solution for free, imagine the fact that you do that endears them to you a lot more, and they're more willing to say like, yes, please, I will pay you whatever you ask for. Case in point, like I just described, I went, did a free audit for her, told her everything that had gone wrong and everything. And in the end, she's like, okay, great. Since you've been able to identify the problem, then you must have a solution. And I will pay whatever I need to pay for the solution. So that is how I landed my very first ever high ticket client. Mistakes that I made with that. Because again, like I said, this journey for me has been bumpy and I'm not going to lie and say that I figured it out. The major mistake that I made is I let imposter syndrome get in the way. Because the time that I offered the Facebook ads to her, it was really, really close to her launching. Again, we had, I think, like 2 weeks. And in the world of Facebook ads, if you're going to be doing a high ticket launch, you need to start like 3 months before. We were starting 2 weeks too. Like that was around the time that, do you guys remember this one time when Facebook shut down for like 24 hours? It happened then. 3, this was also the time when privacy laws changed. So the way Facebook ads were working was just different and people were not getting the same results as they were at the time. This is not me making excuses. This is me explaining different scenarios that made it such that while the ads were successful, like I generated an actual $30,000 for her in like 2 weeks worth of ads. So it was successful. The problem is it was not as successful as she wanted. She wanted $100,000. So we were $70,000 short of her goal, right? And on top of that, I let imposter syndrome get in the way. So by the time I was like giving her a report, I was kind of like, oh, we had this issue and we had this other issue and blah, 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 blah. And so because of that, I'm going to actually charge you at the lower price of $1,750 instead of $2,500, blah, 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 blah. And I basically talked myself down, right? even you just listening to that, I'm sure you can feel the lack of confidence in that. And because of that, I imagine in her mind, she's like, this young girl, I don't think I want to work with her long term. So because I lacked confidence in myself, she was not confident enough to hire me again. Don't be like me. This is me sharing you, like, these are the ways that I got clients, and these are the ways that I also lost clients. So now, going back to the coach that I was working with, he was also instrumental in the next way that I was able to land a client, which is through doing a guest interview. Let me explain. Remember, I was working with a sales coach. It was also a group coaching program. And because like me and this guy, he also had like a marketing background. So like we really vibed on the whole marketing thing. So one day he asked me and another friend of mine who was into marketing, he asked us to create like a workshop for the rest of the community. So we did. There was no payment involved. Again, this goes back to the whole free work thing. There was no payment involved or anything of the sort. Me, I just was like, hey, this is an opportunity to like teach people a bunch of things. Let me go ahead and do it. Because also, I was also considering like becoming like a marketing coach at the time. So I was like, hey, this gives me an opportunity to practice, blah, blah, blah. And, just offer value to this community I'm in. So we had the whole like workshop and it was successful and people enjoyed it. People were engaged and blah, blah, blah. So now fast forward like a few weeks, I get a DM from a lady and she's like, hey, I'm looking for someone to interview who is a marketing expert and you are Sean's one and only recommendation. I was like, oh, okay. Pro tip, giving free value always works. Like I said, the first time I landed on this free work hack, it worked so brilliantly that for me personally, it's my favorite. So I agreed to be a guest interview on this lady's podcast series. She had a community of authors and she was helping them to write, publish, and market and sell their books. As part of the whole preparation process, we had like a pre-interview call. And at the end of it, she was like, oh, by the way, do you have something to sell? And I was like, no, but I can think of something real quick. Because the coach who I had run Facebook ads for had taught us something called creating a beta coaching program, whereby you go to people and you're like, hey, I have this idea / outline for a coaching program. This is what it looks like. I want to sell it to you as a discount. Full disclosure, I don't actually have the program created. If you join, you're essentially agreeing to be my guinea pigs and we build the program together. Are you cool with that? But it's still not free, okay? So that's essentially what I did. So I went, after this lady told me you need to sell something, I went and quickly came up with an outline for like a 10-week coaching program, blah, blah, blah. We had the podcast interview. It was successful. It was fun. And at the end of it, I was like, okay, so if you're interested in working with me, I'm actually running a beta program, blah, blah, blah. And this is what you get. And instead of charging you $4,000, because we're just getting started, I'm only going to charge you $647. So if you're interested, click the link and book a call. Someone actually booked a call. I was like, you guys, listen, I'm winning in life. So this guy gets on this call. I talk him through the program and everything. And again, remember, full disclosure, I'm telling him I have not created the program yet. This is an outline. This is what I anticipate. And you guys are going to help me build out the program together. And he bought on the spot. Now, was it profitable? No. Did it give me experience? Yes. The mistake I made, say it with me, I was not consistent, because if I could go back, I would have actually thought beyond just running the beta program itself. To be honest, I think the reason I didn't even continue with it was at the time I already now had like 2 kids and they were growing and we needed to take them to school. So like I needed something that was giving me profitable income immediately. So I could not think beyond right now. I guess that brings me to like an interesting lesson that I hadn't thought of sharing. Like, everything that you do, you need to try as best as you can to have long range vision, because when it comes to this whole remote work life, like things ebb and flow, things change so fast. I mean, just a couple of years ago, AI was not a thing, and now because AI is everywhere, we have to adapt. So you kind of have to try as much as possible to have a really long range vision. Listen, I understand when you just need money right now. I understand. I've been there more times than I care to admit. But you still need something bigger than I need money right now to hold on to if you're going to be successful in this remote work journey. Because trust me, it is not actually as easy as it sounds. So you really need to have long range vision. So that was a bit of a side note that was not part of my plans, but let's now dive into my 5th way that I was able to land a client, which is by cold pitching. So now the thing about my cold pitching experience is it actually combines my Upwork experience with my free work experience. In 2023, 2023 was basically a financially difficult year for me, though not as bad as 2024, but that's a story for another day. So in 2023, I really needed clients. So I tried to go back to Upwork. And by this point, they were connected and I was so bored. Anyways, so I applied for this job that looked really interesting. And this guy actually responded to my proposal and we started a conversation. Then he dropped off the conversation. And I was like, no, but I really want to work with this guy. So now the thing with Upwork is, unless the client signs their name and in the job post, you don't actually know who you're dealing with. But once you start having a conversation about the job, you get more information about them. So now because I'd actually started this conversation with this guy, I was able to know exactly who he was, what his name was, and what his company was. And now because he wasn't responding to me on Upwork and I really, really wanted to work with him, I decided, let me go and research him outside of Upwork. So I went, looked him up, looked up his company, etc., etc. And I was like, the more I learned, the more interested I was in working with this guy. So I went and I found like a podcast interview he had done. He had been a guest on someone's podcast, and that was at the time when it had just become like really popular for people to take long form content and turn it into like 60-second clips for social media. So I went and I got like a clip out of that whole interview, packaged it up, used like his own branding and things, and created a 60-second video. And then I found him on LinkedIn. I sent him a connection request and I was like, hey, I created this video for you. If you like it, please feel free to use it. You don't even have to credit me or anything. Just go ahead and use it for free. No questions asked. Me, what do I want? I want to have a conversation because I want to work for you. And imagine it worked. This guy actually got back to me and he was like, hey, I checked out your profile, looks interesting. Yeah, let's talk. So we had like 2, maybe 3 phone conversations and things, and we struck a deal, and he agreed for me to become his marketing coordinator, and he was paying me $2,000 a month. And at that point, that was like the first time I actually had someone paying me what I feel like, at least for me at the time, was relatively high ticket, and it was on a retainer. I worked with this guy for about 4 months. There are other lessons to be learned that are not for this video, so if you're curious, please let me know in the comments what went down with that story, and I can do a video for you about that. So yeah, but I worked with that guy up until the beginning of last year, and then after I stopped working with him, 2024 is a whole other video. Long story short, 2024 was a hard year. I just didn't have clients. I was pregnant with my second child. It was a pregnancy that wiped the energy from me. So basically, I spent 2024 with no income. It was rough. So when I tell you guys that I understand what it's like to need money right now and to be desperate for money, I understand. But I don't know, I soldiered through. Then shortly after my third born was born last year, a friend of mine like sent this full-time employment opportunity to me, and it was for an executive assistant position. So when my friend came across this job, she saw it, she's like, this job fits you. She sent it to me and I went ahead and I applied, and I was fortunate enough to land the job, and that's the job I'm currently doing now. I'm working as an executive assistant, and really that's like method number 6. It's the traditional approach of actually finding full-time employment in these remote streets. That said, it is something that I am only like 5 months in. 1, 2, I am not an HR or recruitment expert, despite what many people seem to think, guys. I don't know what she's about, like one of my last videos where people suddenly decided I'm a recruiter. Guys, I'm not a recruiter. I'm not an HR professional, okay? That said, it seems like it's a really, really big need for people to be able to find like full-time remote employment. So if this is something you're interested in, please let me know in the comments if you'd like me to find like an HR recruiter that I can talk to help us out with this whole landing remote roles in the traditional method. And with that, I will say bye. See you in the next video.